Hi, my name is Daniel Foley Carter, and today I'm giving away this sheet, which is one of many sheets that I work with. So let me first explain very basically what this sheet is. So what it's designed to do is provide a very top level amalgamation of key metrics. Now, obviously, there's a lot more to SEO than just top level metrics, but one thing that we can do is that we can merge key bits of data together to look for gaps and opportunities. So what you would simply do is make a copy of this sheet, and what you then need to do is in each one of these you need to remove what's in there and you need to paste your own data. So the first one that you would start with would be GSC click data, and that would be a case of you going into your search console, going into performance, selecting last 16 months and exporting everything as it is. Now actually before you do that, it might be worth regexing out your brand and then exporting, so that you haven't got a click bias influenced by brand. You want pure non-brand click data. So I would do that. So you would paste this in here, then in Search Console, and what I'll do, I'll just pull this up so I can show you. Okay, so I'll tell you what, let's reenact it, okay? So we'll start with GSC click data, and we're going to, actually I need to make a copy of this. Actually no, it's fine, we'll use this one. Okay, so I'm gonna delete everything from GSC click data. So I'm gonna go into GSC, I'm gonna select last 16 months. This is my own mess around site. Okay, so we would just do a regex, and we would get rid of brand. So I don't know, bulk co. Try and make sure you regex out any brand misspellings as well. Okay, so now we've got our data. So what we want to do is export. It's customary to have a Christmas cup in December. And effectively what we're going to do is click on pages, Control A, Control C. We're going to go back here. Okay, and we're going to paste. Okay. For GSC link data, we simply go to performance. And we go to links. Then we go to top linked pages. And what we're going to do now is export this into a Google Sheet. Again, Control A, Control C. We'll go into GSC link data, remove what's here. Okay, sorry, whenever you do it, edit, paste special, paste values only. That way you preserve formatting. Okay, then what you're going to do is in full site crawl, you need to open Screaming Frog and you need to crawl your site. And when you've got your full site crawl, what you do is just simply make sure you've got HTML set, click export, export to a CSV, open the CSV, Control A, Control C, come back in here, and then empty this data and then paste your data over the top of it. Then what you're going to do is you're going to go to Ahrefs, and in Ahrefs you need to take all of your URLs from the sheet, from your crawl. Then in Ahrefs you'll go in, you'll click on more, and then you'll click on batch analysis. You'll paste all of your URLs in here, click analyze. Then you'll export Then you'll open that and you'll basically Control A, Control C, and then you'll paste it into here. Okay. Then you'll do the same, but this time you'll go to Majestic. You'll put your domain in. And then what you'll do is you'll use bulk backlinks. Okay. And you'll have to do 400 at a time. Export. Okay. From here. And then you'll want to populate this sheet. Okay. And this will flood. Now, lastly, this one, obviously, I use SEO Stack because it's my own tool. But obviously, if you're not using SEO Stack, that's fine. What you would need to do, effectively, is paste your list of URLs. Then what you need to do is you basically need to find out the volume of queries associated with that URL. And you can do this in Search Console by selecting exact URL, pasting it in, and effectively in the bottom corner of the query table, at the bottom you'll get a query count number. Some URLs you might have more than 1,000 queries, in which case you'll need to use something like Search Analytics for Sheets to dump out the full query list by URL. And then once you've got your volume of queries, what you effectively are then looking to do is count how many of those queries there are in total. You then want to mark how many of them have clicks, how many do not. And in terms of age of page index, so this one's a little bit more difficult. We get this data through Google BigQuery. You may be able to get this data by putting your URL into Search Console. If your URL is less than 16 months old, you can basically count from the point the first average position appears, and you count in days how many days that is, and then you can enter that here. Obviously, I'm not here trying to sell SEO Stack, but SEO Stack basically does all of this in automated for you, and then you can export it out. So what do we make of all of this? Well, here, this sheet here, the master sheet, this consolidates all of the some of the key metrics from all of the data that we pasted in. So we can look at the relationship between word count and the volume of queries. Okay, so what we can look for here is clear gaps between maybe pages that have got a lot more content and low query counts, or pages with less content and higher query counts. So we're going to be wanting to look at what's called proportionality. Okay, so it may be that a page, that's long form with 4,000, 5,000 words of content only has a low number of queries. That might indicate to a more wider content problem. We might find that some pages have a fair word count and a very low volume of queries, in which case we're always looking for a gap here, because it's an indicator. Generally, content that is of more value will be served more. That will increase the volume of queries that we see. So we can use this as a very basic measurement tool to say, well, there looks like there's a discrepancy here. And then what we can do is we can basically cross-analyze anything that we like. Okay, so we can look for pages that might have higher impression, low click throughput, with a large volume of queries. That means that there's a large portion of queries generating impressions and low clicks, which means that there is generally a wider opportunity to gain more potential traffic from that. But then we can also look at relationships between things such as internal links. So what we've got here is what Google tells us it sees in terms of internal link counts. So we can start looking for gaps. We might see a page that has a high volume of impressions, low volume of clicks, and has a poor internal link count. Okay, we need to know what Google is telling us it can see in terms of internal links. And then what we can do is, this here is from our Screaming Frog crawl. And in fact, I'm going to make that clear there. And this is from our GSC count. So what we're looking for is large discrepancies. Maybe Google reports a very low internal link count. Okay, so we can see here, for example, there were no reported links to this product, but Google seems to think that there's a handful of links to it internally. So we can look for gaps here. We can look for opportunities. And then what we can do is we can also then look at external link influence. So we can see how many referring domains there are, how many of those are followed, how many external backlinks there are. And obviously Ahrefs doesn't give us backlinks with traffic or anything like that, unfortunately, on the batch analysis. Then we can look at distributed trust flow. Then we can look at lead topical trust flow for the URL. And effectively what we're looking for is we're looking for the relationship between the volume of content, the volume of queries, and then where pages inherit links internally and obviously externally as well. So what we're going to be looking for is a way that we can identify pages that have higher opportunity but low internal link counts, low external link counts. We can look for gaps between content volume and query counts, and this is really important for being able to hone in and say, okay, well, if we've got this large portion of content and it has low query counts, why? That means that it's not being served. And is it not being served because there's a misaligned intent, or because the page is buried deep? Maybe, there's a fairly high crawl depth, and and what we're always doing is looking for relationships. Now, the other thing that we can do in this sheet as well is that because we've got a filter enabled, we can effectively start to subfilter. So I'm just going to move this over here and show you what I mean. So the first thing that I would do is I would duplicate this. Be mindful as well that whenever you duplicate, it may rerun scripts. So I'm just going to temporarily disable that so it doesn't run. And I'll move that out of the way. So first thing that I would do is I would duplicate the sheet and I'd go, right, well, I only want HTTP 200. Okay, that narrows down the list. Okay, then what I'm going to be wanting to do is actually looking at the relationship between word count and volume of queries. So the first thing that we can do is we can select all, sort range, advanced range sorting options, data as a header row, and we'll select word count, highest to lowest. Okay. So, we're going to be looking at, the volume of content within a page, and, then we're going to be looking at, okay, well, this has only got a low throughput of queries. And we can see here that it doesn't actually have that strong impression coverage, which is why, it's color-coded. So through here, I would be looking to identify opportunities based upon word count to query ratio, looking at the size of impressions, how old the page is, then looking at the relationship between internal links reported between GSC and Screaming Frog, looking for opportunities where there might be much lower counts on power pages that have got higher impression throughput. There's loads of things that we can do. We can subfilter. So we might say, okay, well, you know what? We're only interested initially in upper end volume. So, we would say, okay, well, we want greater than, I don't know, 100,000 impressions. Okay. So I've now filtered down to 100,000 impressions, and I can see here that this page here has got, an average word count, 1,100 words, 73 queries associated with it, which is really thin, but fairly sizable impression coverage. So I'd be looking at that in GSC and saying, okay, well, why isn't it being served very often? Does it have a shortfall on internal links? 880 falls well in line with a lot of the other numbers. I think the average was around 800 to 1,000 anyway. So this falls in line with internal link counts. We see there's no external links supporting that. So I'd probably think, okay, well, I'll send a handful of referring domains to that. Run a in-links brief on it. So I take the lead query by clicking impression, look at the relationship between those, and is the page the right fit for the kind of content that there is. Anyway, make a copy of this sheet. I hope this helps you on your SEO endeavors.